Hey guys, welcome back to Bad Luck Garage. Today we're going to try to get these nitrous issues straightened out. If you remember in the last video, we were having an issue with surging. We did make great gains with our tune, but on the bottle we were having a lot of issues. So like I said in the last video, there's really only two things it could be. One is a fueling issue, two is some kind of connection issue, you know, with the control unit, what have you. So we're going to kind of try to address both of those issues right now, and I'm also trying to take the whole low bottle pressure thing out of the equation. Yeah, so kind of trying to heat the bottle up without taking it out of the car. I've got the old heating pad on here, guys, so we're going to try to warm that up in case we get to make a few test hits here in just a little bit, and moving right along. Some of you may or may not know, but usually these ZEX kits, when you're hooking them up on a drive-by-wire car, most of the kits that come for drive-by-wire cars, they actually come with a little resistor. And the purpose of that resistor is to kind of isolate the unit from the signal going back and forth to the TPS sensor, if that makes any sense. But basically what happens is on some drive-by-wire vehicles, hooking the TPS wire up there can give erratic signals without a resistor in there, I think is the short of it. So what I did is I got on ZEX's website. The resistor they recommend running is a 82 kilo ohm half watt resistor. Wife was at the mall shopping, and by coincidence, Radio Shack, which has been out of business for some time now, has just recently reopened the store in the mall. So I sent her by there. They did not have an 82 kilo ohm resistor. They did have a 68. So I'm hoping that's going to be enough, you know, to do the job. So she picked me up a pack of those. And I do want to say, this is only the second time. I mean, I've had this system hooked up on a lot of different cars, but this is only the second time I've had it hooked up on a drive-by-wire vehicle. The first was on Project Steppenwolf, and we didn't have this issue. So maybe it's just like a specific thing with certain vehicles. I don't know, but we're going to try to kill two birds with one stone here, and we're going to heat the bottle up. I'm actually going to solder together a little plug-in resistor to put in line between our TPS wire and our ZEX unit, and we'll kind of go from there. I do want to say I was actually able to find the correct size resistor on eBay, and I have went ahead and ordered those, but I don't want to wait for them to get here because I think we're all wanting to see what happens when I get this thing straightened out. So for now, we're going to try the slightly smaller resistor and see if it takes care of the problem, or at least helps the problem. So all I'm doing is, this is similar to when I showed you guys how to do the resistor mod for wiring up a tachometer. All I'm doing is I'm crimping my resistor between a male and a female connector. I'm going to put some heat shrink tubing on it. That's all I'm doing, guys. I'm just making a you know, a little plug-in resistor to plug in between my lead wire from my ZEX unit and my TPS. In case you either didn't watch the nitrous install videos or just weren't paying attention, right here is where we had our TPS wire plugged in. So I'm just going to take my little resistor I just made, and I'm going to plug it in between my connection and my wire there. Now I'm actually going to reprogram the unit, because I don't know if anything's going to change since I added that resistor in there. So just in case, I'm going to go ahead and reprogram it. Now, I actually already showed how to do the learn procedure on the ZEX unit in the nitrous installation video. So if you haven't seen those yet, you can go back and watch I think it's in part 2 where I show how to do that. So, all right, guys. So at this point, I'm going to take it down the road, get it warmed up. My bottle pressure, I managed to get it up to about 750, which is still really low. It needs to be at least 900, but I didn't want to wait any longer. To be honest, I'm leaning more towards the connection issue than I am towards the low bottle issue. But the other night, like I said in the last video, I did play around with the tune a little bit off camera. I did add some more timing. So what I want to do now is I want to take the car down the road, warm it up, make a couple NA pulls, check for knock retard, and you know, I might have to pull some timing out before we do the first test hit on the nitrous. So yeah, this thing's definitely a little bit louder since we did the headers and X-pipe, guys. The wifey drove it the other day, and you know, she drove it around all over the place, but she came back and she was like, man, that thing's loud. I don't think it's that loud. I mean, it's honestly it's more quiet than Steppenwolf was. Maybe once I put the turbo and the muffler on Steppenwolf, it's probably about the same noise level as it was then. But when Steppenwolf was just all NA, no turbo or anything, it was way louder than this. Way louder. I'm not getting any park throttle knocks, so that's awesome. Just so you guys know, I mean, in my experience, I tend to have to deal with more issues with park throttle, like half throttle, low RPM acceleration knock. I generally usually have to deal with more of that than I do with the wide open throttle. Wide open throttle is pretty easy to fine tune the knock out of, but it's that park throttle stuff that gets on my nerves. Easy there, buddy. Slow down there, China. We are almost up to operating temperature, guys, so we may try to give it a little juice, see what happens. Like I said, this is not the exact resistor that ZEX recommends, but it's the only one I could find today, guys. It is Sunday, so but I've went ahead and ordered the correct one on eBay. I just don't know how long it's going to take to get that. Wow. I don't know if you guys saw that, but we broke the tires loose when it shifted into second just then. I might have pulled a little less timing on the shift, the 1-2 shift there too, guys. I might have. It's only pulling about 3 degrees of timing on the shift now. I actually lowered the percentage down even more since I was at the drag strip. We're just gonna hope this 4L60 can take it. As soon as we get across the border into Mexico up here, I'm gonna try a nitrous roll on, guys. Yeah, there's too much traffic right here for me to be playing around. It's just really not safe, guys. So I'm gonna get off on this exit up here to Guatemala. Go on down to Michoacan. Got to be somewhere where, you know, second gear in this thing is really long, guys. mean, it's geared really high. So I need to find a straightaway where there's not a lot of traffic, and where I can do a second gear roll on from 3,000 RPMs, you know, without the potential to cause harm to others, is what I'm trying to say. I'm an asshole, but I'm not that big of an asshole. Still surging, guys. Still surging and popping. It's not good. Guys, like I said, I've had this ZX kit for about 15 years. It is completely possible that it may just be on its way out. I mean, it may be it may be finished, guys. I might have to just hook up the NX kit. We might just have to skip this X and go straight to the NX, because I've never had these issues with this kit. 15 years, and it's been on, I'd have to sit here and think about it. It's been on a lot of different vehicles, everything from Hondas to freaking trucks to Camaros to, I mean, I've put that kit on a lot of vehicles, and I've never had this issue before. And I was getting very, very little knock retard there. It looks like I had about a pound, or a pound. Looks like I had about 1.5 degrees of retard on that pull, guys. So, I mean, everything's nice the way it should be. Get home and look at the data log again. We may just have to wait on that other resistor too. See what happens there. I mean, maybe the box is surging. I thought about maybe tying my Hero Session, like zip tying it under there, because as the unit engages and disengages, the light would flicker. So if it's an issue with the Zex unit not staying on steadily, if I put my Hero Session down there to keep an eye on the light on the side of the box, that should tell me what I need to know. If I see that light flickering during a wide open throttle pull, then I know, you know, the unit's coming on and off. And we did check our T-tap connector. You know, we checked it with a multimeter, and it's got a good solid signal from the TPS wire, so I know that's not the issue. Like I said, guys, 15-year-old Zex unit. It's had a lot of use. I bet there's been, geez, guys, there's probably been 80 bottles run through this unit over the last 15 years, maybe more. Get a little sideways action there. I'm sorry, guys. I love the way this car sounds. I really do. With the, I know the wife thinks it's too loud, but with the Speed Engineering headers and X-pipe and the Type S Borla catback, it sounds so good, guys. Especially when you hold it in gear and let off of it, and it does a little popping and burbling thing. I freaking love it. Love it. As a matter of fact, the last vehicle that I had that I just really absolutely loved the way it sounded was my 79 Corvette back when I was like, I think I was 21 when I had that car. And it had a set of long tubes with 3-inch pipes going back to a set of Hooker aero chamber mufflers. I don't know if you guys remember those. I mean, they still make them, but they were real popular for a while. A lot of people thought they would sound like Flowmasters. They sounded nothing like Flowmasters, guys. They sounded, it was almost like an open pipe, but with a deeper note to it. I mean, oh man, I love the way that car sounded. To this day, that was probably my favorite sounding car that I've ever had. And I've had a bunch of Camaros. Yeah, cue the mullet jokes. But I've had a bunch of Camaros. I've had several imports, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've had a couple Hondas. No, I'm sorry. I've had one Honda. I had two 300ZXs, and I put exhaust on just about everything I own. I haven't done it on the Avalanche yet, but it's coming. Okay, guys, I just kind of wanted to show you. Someone was asking about, you know, a purge, why you purge, you know, or saying they didn't need to purge or something. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys why purging is important. If you look at my data log right here, now I told you guys before I made this run, I didn't do my little redneck purge thing, so it would probably cause like a slight lean, or I'm sorry, a slight rich condition right when the nitrous first hit, and that's exactly what we see here. You can see right here the nitrous engages, but look at this little dip. This dip right here, and if you look at, this is the commanded AFR, this is what we're shooting for, and this is the actual AFR in green. So if you look, when the nitrous first comes on, what happens is my AFR drops all the way down to 1082, 1066, 1068, and then it starts coming back up. And what causes that, guys, is there is air in the line. Where I open the bottle, you know, the nitrous is coming through, but it traps some air in the line, and it takes about a half a second or sometimes longer, depending on how much air is in that line, how much air is trapped in there. It takes, you know, about a half a second or sometimes longer before it pushes that air through and the actual nitrous reaches your intake. And during that time, that's when you get that little, right here, what you're seeing right here, that rich surge right before the fuel, or I mean the nitrous actually starts to come in, because the fuel's going to be there almost immediately, guys, but the nitrous is going to take a split second to get there. And again, this is more of a concern on the very first run. Like if your line's empty and you've just opened your bottle, this is what happens, guys. It's not a huge deal if you're just racing for fun, but if you're actually trying to make a number, you know, where every fraction of a second counts. I mean, this right here, this little surge, or I'm sorry, this little rich spike right here, that could be enough to mean the difference in a half a second, okay? Because if that lasted a half a second, then you just wasted a half a second. That was a half a second bog right there. And if that would have been right off the line, this was during a rolling start, but if that would have been right off the line, you would have felt that. It would have just felt like the car fell on its face for a second and then picked back up. So that's why you purge, guys. And I'll say it again, I don't feel like it's something you need to do every round. I mean, professionals do, because there's a lot of heat under the hood. It could boil the nitrous out of the line, I guess, or something. But you definitely want to do that your first run of the night. When you first open your bottle, you want to always purge and get that air out of the line so you don't get that rich bog there. Now, moving on, you can see right here around 41 to 4200 RPM up to about 4,500, in that range. I had like 1.5 degree of knock retard. That's not a huge deal. I am going to pull that out. Well, here we go, guys. You get to hear me admit my mistake. My trusty T-cap connector there that I was ranting and raving about how they've never failed me. Well, it failed me. So just for shits and giggles, I came down here and decided to throw a multimeter on it just to check it again. So I put the multimeter in with the wife in there pressing the gas pedal. Everything was reading fine. So I start jiggling the wires, and guess what happened? When I would jiggle the wires, the signal would go in and out. So I guess the T-cap connector wasn't getting a really good connection. When the wires would move around, which engine vibration would be causing them to move around, of course, it was jiggling. So what I did, I went in here. I still wanted the ability to disconnect quickly, so I just took a piece of wire, put a female connector on the end of it, and I went ahead and soldered the wire to my TPS wire there. So I'm going to wrap this up with some electrical tape, plug plug our lead wire with our resistor. We're gonna go ahead and leave the resistor in there, plug that back in and take it down the road, and that'll probably be our final test today if that does not work. Because if that does not work, then I'm probably gonna have to do what I was talking about and zip tie a camera in here to monitor the ZEX unit while we're doing our pulls to see if it's floatering on and off. But hopefully that was just a bad connection and our problem is fixed. Now I also use that to my advantage, and I was thinking something else that may have been the issue was that my signal wire was laying right up against my coil here, so I thought, well, maybe that could be causing electrical interference. So I made my new wire a little bit longer so it plugs in back here, and then I was able to kind of zip tie it. I hope you guys can see that. I know it's dark, but I zip tied it to this little clip here to kind of hold it up away from the coil. So, you know, if that had anything to do with it too, then that issue's solved. Yeah, guys, like I was saying, with a Nitrous system, it's pretty simple. There's not a lot to it. When you're having issues like this, it's usually either some kind of bad connection or a fueling issue. I mean, that's really all it could. I mean, there's always, it could be an ignition issue too, but you know, that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of components that could be causing an issue. This is actually the first time I've ever had this issue, which is weird. I've read on a lot of forums about people having surging issues and stuff. I've just never dealt with it myself. I guess that's bad luck garage, but I guess that's the one thing I've always been lucky with up until now. Same thing with the quick tap or T-connects or whatever you call them. Same thing with those things, guys. I mean, that was the first time I've ever had an issue. Now, granted, the larger the wire is, usually the better those things work because they're able to bite into the wire. And the wire that I was on that time was really, really small diameter, probably like 18 gauge or something. So that's got a lot to do with it too, because I think those T-taps are only connected to, or only rated for like 14 through 16 gauge wire or something like that. So that might have had something to do with it. I don't know if they make them for 18 gauge, but definitely could have been the issue. Bottom line is, use the right components that are rated for what you have, and you know, hopefully you won't have an issue. Or you can just do like I just did and solder it. But yeah, definitely admitting I was wrong about that connector, guys. When I'm wrong, I'll admit it, and I admit it. It failed the jiggle test. Hope this takes care of it, guys, because I was really sad last night. Really disappointed. I was really happy with the improvements I made with the tune, but then I was really disappointed when I started having issues with the Nitrous, and that's why I just kind of called it quits. I'm like, and I didn't bring anything. My wife, guys, before I left the house last night to go to the drag strip, my wife says, like 2 or 3 times, she told me, she's like, you need to make a checklist, make sure you have everything, because every time I go to the drag strip with her, I'm always complaining because I forgot something. So she was hounding me about that before I left, and I didn't listen. You know, if I would have brought a multimeter and different fueling jets and things like that, then we could have remedied this at the drag strip last night, most likely. But in my defense, usually when I go to the drag strip, her and, you know, one of the kids or somebody will go, and I usually take a toolbox. I just put it in the back of the Avalanche, and she drives the Avalanche. So, you know, I didn't have my pit crew. Still low bottle pressure. I just checked it, and it's down to 700 now instead of 750. So that sucks, but do what we can. Everybody cross your fingers. As soon as I get it clear. time, but it didn't seem as bad. But my check engine light's on now, so cylinder 5 misfire detected. Random misfire detected. Alright. Well, we know what that was all about. Guess we're gonna pull plug number 5. Getting a misfire code. I'm gonna have to check that out, guys, before we play with the nitrous anymore. Could be anything, but we'll pull the plug, go back home, pull the plug, and see what we find. Got the BR7s that came out of the engine that was in Project Steppenwolf. So worst case scenario, you know, I could use one of them that's in good shape, open the gap back up and stick it in there. So I went to pull number 5, and a funny thing happened, guys. When I pulled the spark plug wire, when I pulled the boot off the spark plug, the whole wire came out. So I'm actually thinking that maybe the wire was not fully on the coil, at the coil end on number 5. Just to be sure, I went ahead, pulled the plug, checked it, plug looked good, put it back in, made sure that the coil wire was snapped on good this time. But we're moving on to another problem. While I was looking around, I noticed that where I tried to plasti weld all this, and it is dark, so I don't know if you can see it, but there is a hole here now. Well, the mass airflow meter, of course, is up here. So we have unmonitored air getting into the engine right up here. So I've already tried to plasti weld this, guys. I didn't have good luck. It's crumbling. This again is the Volant air bellow. When I bought the car, this was already on here and it was already cracked and falling apart. So I think what I'm going to do for the time being, probably going to go back to the duct tape that you guys love so much that I had on here before. Seriously though, probably what I'm going to do is get like some of that hose repair tape to wrap it up. And as much as I wanted to just make this, you know, the eBay build, I think I'm going to have to go ahead and probably order a Veraram air bridge to go on here, because you know, that's not good, guys. If we've got unmetered air going in, especially when we're running a power adder like Nitrous, you don't want anything to be off. So I'm going to get that ordered up, but it looks like until I get this fixed, we're probably just going to park this thing. That doesn't mean it's going to be parked until the new part comes in, but it's getting kind of late. So what I'm going to have to do is probably swing by the auto parts store tomorrow and get some of that heavy duty repair tape to tape it up. So when I say park it, I mean park it for the night, not for like 2 weeks, guys. On the flip side of that, I need to start getting this 6.0 together for the Nova. So we're probably going to start putting the 6.0 back together this week. I need to hone out the cylinders and put our new pistons and rods in, and yeah, throw the heads on, start getting that back together for the Nova, because the Nova's coming over here soon, guys. We're going to do the fuel system maybe next weekend, and depending on how things work out with that Chinese regulator, that Aeromotive knockoff I got, if we can't get it to hold pressure down to run on the carburetor, then I'm going to go ahead and be starting on the swap. So you guys who are on the channel because of the LS swap goodness, you're about to see another one. As far as the Chinavette, I'm going to try to get that, you know, like a temporary fix on that air bridge done tomorrow. You know, I don't have the money at this exact moment to order the new air bridge, but maybe next payday, which I think is coming in like a week, I may have the money to go ahead and order that. But I'm definitely going to be testing it out again this week. Just do the temporary repair on the bellow. Hopefully, I mean, I'm pretty sure I said right before that check engine light come on, or it could be an ignition issue. So, hell, guys, that may have been the problem all along. You know, that coil might just not have been plugged in, and when we were on the Nitrous, it was exaggerating it. I don't know. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to click the thumbs up button. Tell a friend about me. Subscribe if you want to see more. Get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.